Welcome to the MVP podcast, where we talk about anything NBA. I'm Sam Holcroft. Before we begin, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Momentum MVP, follow our Facebook page at MVP Momentum Podcast, and check us out on YouTube at MVP Momentum Podcast. Today, I'm just going to give our final stock market update. Lots of things going on. Last 2 weeks of the season. This is coming a little bit later than usual. But let's go ahead and get right into it with some of our top gainers and top losers. Our top gainers from the last 2 weeks were the Lakers at $16.21, the Mavericks $10.51, the Spurs $3.27, the Rockets at $3.07, and the Kings at $2.77. Other teams that made money were the Heat, the Nuggets, the Suns, the Hornets, the Warriors, the Clippers, the Hawks, and the Wizards. Our top losers were the Jazz at $12.81, Cavs at $8.16, the Blazers at $5.73, the Bucks at $4.52, and the Grizzlies at $4.09. Other teams that lost money were the Bulls, the Celtics, the Pelicans, the Pacers, the Thunder, the Magic, the Knicks, the Wolves, the Nets, the 76ers, the Raptors, and the Pistons. So in terms of us players, Geigh gained $702.04, bringing his yearly total to $2,629.56. I made the second most with $698.07, a little under $4 less than Geigh, but I still have about a $300 lead on him, with my yearly totals being $2,926.44. And Payton having a great week, $383.80, bringing his yearly loss to only $16.91. It's time to break even, P. So in terms of what people are doing in terms of stocks, we'll start with Payton, since he's in the bottom. He's selling 60 of his Rockets shares. It's to the point where, they've gained a lot of money in the last 2 weeks, about $6, I want to say. And it's just time for him to kind of like cut back on that. They're hitting in the tougher part of the schedule. The last month was really kind of like an easier kind of set schedule. Getting rid of the Raptors, they didn't win a single game the last 2 weeks. He still had stock in them. They are now the lowest stock in the entire game, less than the Pistons. So that's insane. Getting rid of 6 Celtics, it's really hard for the Celtics to make money with that expected win percentage. So he's selling all of those there. And then he sold all of his Pacers. It's just getting into a harder part of their schedule, pretty high win expectations. But the shares that he bought 35 shares of the Spurs. A favorable schedule. They're fighting to be in that top, for the lottery, but this isn't really necessarily a lottery that you'd probably really care to get in the top 3. I mean, it's always nice, but if they ended up with the 4th or 5th pick because of their odds, so be it. They have Victor Wembanyama. They just want to get him some winning experience, and I think that's what they're doing. Next is the Grizzlies. He bought 13 shares of the Grizzlies. Low expected win percentage, and it's a high stock. So all they have to do is win just a few games, and then they can start making him some money, which he desperately needs if he wants to crack 500. Next, we'll talk about Geigh. Geigh sold all of his Rockets and all of his Kings. So everything that made him $700 last week, gone. So what did he invest in? Well, he started with 66 shares of the Lakers. They are now the highest stock in the game by $16. They had a great week. Too bad he didn't invest in them 2 weeks ago like I did. But, they have a decent schedule up ahead, and they're fighting to not only get out of the 9th seed, but to go into the 7 or 8. Or maybe they can sneak their way into the 6. Wishful thinking, but crazier things have been done. He's also investing 40 into the Mavericks, a team that is in the same boat as the Lakers, but they're a little bit ahead. And right now they're fighting for the 5 seed. So that could be a very interesting dynamic. They're playing some really good basketball as of this last month, and they're going to keep climbing. About 33 76ers, Joel Embiid is back. They're playing pretty good. They won their first game against the Thunder with him. So it's a very low stock price. So the only thing that stinks is that very high expected win percentage. Don't know if that's going to necessarily pay out for him. And then he's buying 20 of the Pistons. He's finally bought into the Pistons. It's about time. But it might be too little too late. I mean, that's a good expected win percentage for them to have. But just kind of like with the 76ers, like, is the juice worth the squeeze? Maybe not at this point, but we'll see. Now going on to my stocks, I sold all of the Kings that I had. It was a good chunk of money that they made, but they almost lost money. If they would have lost their last game, they would have ended up losing money. I sold all my Suns and the one Rocket share that I had. I just needed money to play with. And in my opinion, there wasn't a lot of necessarily teams that I wanted to invest in. That was like, oh God, this is an awesome schedule. Everyone's schedule is like relatively rough. Like any of these teams that I invested in, wouldn't be surprised if they went negative, but a lot of them I'm expecting to be positive. Starting with the Hawks. Hawks are playing some really good basketball as of late. They went 5 of 7 in the last 2 weeks, and they already clinched a play-in spot, but they don't want to be the 10 seed. They want to try to be the 9 seed. Try to get that home court advantage because they might shut down Trey, but if they could get the 9, win that game, and then win their next game, and then they're in the playoffs, maybe they could try to make some noise in the playoffs. So I think that they're going to be trying real hard. So I'm invested a lot in them. A really good expected win percentage at 45%, and it's a low stock, so it's not that big of a deal if they don't hit. I'm investing 25 more into the Mavericks for the same reason that Geigh is. They're playing really good basketball. And I had them last week, only 10 shares. I wish I would have had more. But yeah, I think that they're going to keep climbing. They could be that 5 seed in the West. I bought 18 more Lakers to bring that up to 40. Same with Geigh. Obviously, he sees the schedule too and sees that that's probably the most favorable schedule that they have, and they're playing some good basketball as of late. For the same reasoning with PT, I'm going with 15 more Grizzlies. The 15 that I sold 2 weeks ago. Just really good expected win percentage, and I'm expecting them to hit that and then make some money because all they got to do is win 1 or 2 more games, and then they're going to be making lots of money for a team that is going to have less than 30 wins. 3 teams that I bought just 10 shares of were the Spurs, Hornets, and Warriors. Kind of already talked about the Spurs. The Hornets really, there's the lowest expected win percentage in the NBA. They only have to win, I think, 2 of their last 8 games or something like that. So I really just feel like that could be a good investment. And if it doesn't hit, then they shouldn't lose all too much. The Warriors, a team that needs to get hot here soon. That one is the one that I would be most. I'm expecting to lose money, but I'm banking on the fact that they will start playing better. So that's kind of a gamble on my part. Their price isn't too bad at $28, almost $29, but they do have to win 5 of their last 8 games. I think they've already won 2, maybe 3, but they do have a kind of a tougher schedule. Last 2 should be manageable, but getting there is going to be pretty tough. And then I bought 2 more Pistons. I felt really bad last week or 2 weeks ago when I had to sell 3 Pistons shares, but I'm buying 2 back, just to kind of keep them around. I had money to play with, didn't necessarily want to. I guess I didn't have enough to invest in the Wizards, and I wanted to keep a Pistons because I could have sold my 1 Pistons. I would have had enough to buy a Hawks, but I've been with the Pistons for almost the entire year. I don't think they've made me any money, but it's just been fun to invest in them. And then when they do make money, I get I get to celebrate with him. So, so the biggest questions is Geigh going to be able to overcome the $300 deficit that he has against me? And is PT going to be able to crack 500 or break even? So, he's only got to get $17, a lot more manageable than what Geigh has to do. But we'll end up seeing what happens in about a week and a half. And we'll recap the stock market game, and we'll also kind of see how the playoffs are going to turn out. And we'll have a lot more playoff content coming up here soon. So, once again, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Momentum MVP. Follow our Facebook page at MVP Momentum Podcast. For listening.